So this is going to look familiar. So we just chanted it, this verse. We chant it before every Srimad Bhagavatam class. Nasta prayesha bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. I was going to ask if anybody wants to do the call and response, but I think everyone's so familiar with it, but if we'd like to, we can chant it a couple more times. It's such an important verse. Would anybody like to start? Nashta prayesha bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. Nashta prayesha bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. Nashta prayesha bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. Word for word translation. Nashta, destroyed. Prayeshu, almost to nil. Abhadreshu, all that is inauspicious. Nityam, regularly. Bhagavata, Srimad Bhagavatam, or the pure devotee. Sevaya, by serving. Bhagavati, unto the personality of Godhead. Uttama, transcendental. Shloke, prayers. Bhakti, loving service. Bhavati, comes into being. Naishtiki, irrevocable. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam, and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Here is the remedy for eliminating all inauspicious things within the heart, which are considered to be obstacles in the path of self-realization. The remedy is the association of the Bhagavatas. There are two types of Bhagavatas, namely the book Bhagavata and the devotee Bhagavata. Both the Bhagavatas are competent remedies, and both of them, or either of them, can be good enough to eliminate the obstacles. A devotee Bhagavata is as good as the book Bhagavata because the devotee Bhagavata leads his life in terms of the book Bhagavata, and the book Bhagavata is full of information about the personality of Godhead and his pure devotees, who are also Bhagavatas. Bhagavata book and person are identical. The devotee Bhagavata is a direct representative of Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. So by pleasing the devotee Bhagavata, one can receive the benefit of the book Bhagavata. Human reason fails to understand how, by serving the devotee Bhagavata or the book Bhagavata, one gets gradual promotion on the path of devotion. But actually, these are facts explained by Srila Narada Dev, who happened to be a maidservant's son in his previous life. The maidservant was engaged in the menial service of the sages, and thus he also came into contact with them. And simply by associating with them and accepting the remnants of foodstuff left by the sages, the son of the maidservant got the chance to become the great devotee and personality Srila Narada Dev. These are the miraculous effects of the association of Bhagavatas. And to understand these effects practically, it should be noted that by such sincere association of the Bhagavatas, one is sure to receive transcendental knowledge very easily, with the result that he becomes fixed in the devotional service of the Lord. The more progress is made in devotional service under the guidance of the Bhagavatas, the more one becomes fixed in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. The messages of the book Bhagavata, therefore, have to be received from the devotee Bhagavata, and the combination of these two Bhagavatas will help the neophyte devotee to make progress on and on. Jai Srila Prabhupada. So I've mentioned 2, maybe 3 times now what an important verse this is. So we chant it before every Srimad Bhagavatam class. So I recently listened to a class by His Holiness Giriraj Swami on this verse. And Giriraj Swami Maharaj, he described a pastime with Srila Prabhupada. Giriraj Maharaj shared that he was in Calcutta in 1971 with Srila Prabhupada, and that Prabhupada was keeping him and the other disciples there so busy in service from sun up to sundown that Giriraj Swami didn't have time to read Srila Prabhupada's books, and he was feeling very guilty. So one day, Giriraj Swami was sitting in front of Prabhupada in his room in Calcutta. And Giriraj Swami had not told Srila Prabhupada what he was feeling and the internal difficulties he was facing. But he was sitting in front of Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Prabhupada looked at him, and he read his mind. And he said to Giriraj Swami, he quoted this verse, and he said to him that by serving the person Bhagavat, you get the same result as reading the book Bhagavat. And all the truths of the book Bhagavat will be revealed to you, even if you do not read the book. Of course, we should be doing both in our daily lives, but that was such a special moment of mercy for Srila Prabhupada to point out that to his disciples. So this verse mentions, in the translation, that by regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavata, and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. What are those unwanted things in the heart? Would anyone like to share? Yes, lust, greed, anger, envy, those gates to hell. Yeah. The first troublesome thing I have heard explained is identifying with the body. Once we believe that we are the body, we engage in so many numerous and unending activities to gratify the body, to gratify the senses, and all of those activities are inauspicious. The remedy for that is the association of the Bhagavatas. It is important to hear the book Bhagavat from the person Bhagavat. There are two ways of associating: Vani, words, and Vapu, physical presence. Prabhupada said that Vapu may or may not be there, but Vani will always be there. Serving the person Bhagavat doesn't just mean cooking for him or something like that. It means also following his instructions. His Holiness Giriraj Swami said that one of the verses and purports that gave him solace after Srila Prabhupada departed was this one from, I'll share from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 28, verse 47. However, the disciple and spiritual master are never separated, because the spiritual master always keeps company with the disciple as long as the disciple follows strictly the instructions of the spiritual master. This is called the association of Vani, words. Physical presence is called Vapu. As long as the spiritual master is physically present, the disciple should serve the physical body of the spiritual master. And when the spiritual master is no longer physically existing, the disciple should serve the instructions of the spiritual master. Again, that's the purport from Canto 4, Chapter 28, verse 47. So my daughter and I, for the last couple months, we've been reading the book by Giriraj Swami entitled, I'll Build You a Temple, The Jew Story. We just finished it yesterday. Has anyone here read that book? Yeah. I am kind of late to the party. But if you haven't read it, I don't have enough good things to say about it. Really, really incredible. So because I recently finished it, what's fresh in my mind are the final pastimes of Srila Prabhupada, as detailed in probably the last 30 to 50 pages of I'll Build You a Temple. These are also known as the winding up pastimes of Srila Prabhupada. So in the book, it describes how over the course of several months, Srila Prabhupada's health deteriorated to the point where he could no longer roll over or sit up, what to speak of stand or walk. So for the last several weeks of his life, Srila Prabhupada was bedridden. He was not eating and was barely drinking. In the final days, he stopped also drinking. So he became very emaciated, and he was, in fact, so emaciated that his bones were pressing on his nerves. He didn't have that barrier of the fat and the tissue. You can imagine how painful that condition is. But even in his most painful moments, Srila Prabhupada was Krishna conscious. He translated the 10th canto flat on his back in that pain with a recorder held up to his lips. That is how dedicated he was to fulfilling the order of his spiritual master. His Holiness Giriraj Swami writes in the book that Srila Prabhupada showed them how to live in Krishna consciousness and how to die in Krishna consciousness. He was constantly hearing the holy name in the association of devotees, in a holy dham, still rendering service to his Guru and Krishna. In his last days, Srila Prabhupada asked his disciples to take him on Govardhan Parikrama in a bullock cart. This would take approximately 9 hours, 3 hours to get from where they were staying in Vrindavan to Govardhan in the bullock cart, and then about 7 hours to go around Govardhan on Parikrama in the bullock cart. And his disciples were divided on whether or not they should follow Srila Prabhupada's instruction. First of all, it was indisputable to people on both sides of this argument that in Prabhupada's emaciated condition, any jostle or bump on the road would be excruciatingly painful for him. And it was an indisputable fact that that road from Vrindavan to Govardhan was rough. The second, Srila Prabhupada's Ayurvedic doctor had said that this trip would cause Srila Prabhupada to die within 2 or 3 hours. But Prabhupada was so insistent, and he conversed with his disciples about it for almost an entire day. What do you think? What do you think? And to each person, he would argue his position as why he thought he should go. But some disciples, like Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, felt that their duty was to protect Srila Prabhupada's health, and they didn't want him to go, and they said they didn't think he should go. And other disciples felt that, well, Srila Prabhupada, as our spiritual master, he knows what is best for us, and he must know also what is best for himself, and we should surrender to his will. Giriraj Swami writes in the book that he felt conflicted. He didn't align himself with either side. But at Prabhupada's insistence, one devotee went to Mathura and rented a bullock cart and then brought it back to Vrindavan, and then another disciple on Srila Prabhupada's order sent for Prabhupada's godbrother, Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj, I believe was also in Mathura, to come to Vrindavan and accompany them on Govardhan Parikrama. After Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj arrived, Prabhupada and his disciples informed Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj about the plan, and Maharaj agreed to leave with them the following morning at 5 a.m. to go on Govardhan Parikrama with Prabhupada in the bullock cart. But shortly thereafter, His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami, one of Prabhupada's closest servants, took Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj aside, and he spoke to him in Bengali. They shared that mother tongue, and he told him what the Ayurvedic doctor had said, that if Prabhupada went through with his plan, that the doctor said he's going to die within 2 or 3 hours. So Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj then told Srila Prabhupada, if that's the case, then no, you cannot go. Prabhupada had argued with his disciples all day about this matter, and their minds were consumed with this one issue. But when his exalted godbrother, who, by the way, Srila Prabhupada praised it, always called him a pure devotee and a Paramahamsa. So when Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj told him no, Prabhupada immediately accepted this decision. Such Vaishnava etiquette, such recognition of this person, Bhagavata, giving him another Bhagavata and instruction. The disciples present, all of whom had been in such anxiety about the pain and the possible death that Prabhupada would have experienced on the Govardhan Parikrama, upon hearing Prabhupada abandon this plan, they jubilantly expressed their relief and their joy. Prabhupada turned to his godbrother and he said, just see how they love me. There was a big, big debate on that intense day as to how to best serve the spiritual master. It's important to note that both sides were very respectful in their disagreement. We don't see that much in the material world. If you have an opposing viewpoint, it doesn't usually go so politely, and there is always resentment afterwards of things that were said. But in that debate, they were very respectful. They were listening to each other's sides. And Giriraj Swami himself said he saw both sides of the issue. He didn't know what the right decision was. After Prabhupada left his body, which took place approximately 3 days after this incident, none of the godbrothers resented each other. But a few days after Prabhupada's passing, His Holiness Giriraj Swami Maharaj was meditating on this pastime, and he was wondering, as I think some of them had been, did we do the right thing? Now Prabhupada is gone. He had wanted to go on Govardhan Parikrama. We didn't take him on Govardhan Parikrama. Some people wanted to, some people didn't want to. Did we miss out, perhaps, on fulfilling a final wish of our beloved spiritual master? So he was praying about this, he was meditating, and he read the 10th canto, and he came to this realization that this pastime was a lila. He had been reading the the Damodar pastime. And it was the month of Kartik. And he came to the realization that this pastime about the bullock cart parikrama with Srila Prabhupada was Prabhupada's Leela with them. All of the devotees in the controversy had been acting on the basis of their realization, of their devotion for Prabhupada. And Prabhupada had been drawing out their loving feelings and asking them to go beyond just following his orders. Following the orders was a given. To follow the order of the spiritual master is a basic principle of spiritual life. So it was not a question of disobeying the order of the spiritual master. It was about developing loving feelings for the spiritual master and expressing them to him. Giraj Maharaj explains that there are natural boundaries between the disciples and the spiritual master. And Prabhupada had always reminded them of these boundaries if he felt that they were becoming too familiar. But in his final hours, he inspired them to reach out and express their love for him and ask him to stay with them. We as human beings have a natural propensity to love. After all, what are the aspects of the Atma, the soul? The qualities of the Atma? Thank you. I can always count on you, Jai Hari Prabhu. Yes, Jai Hari Prabhu said Sat, Chit, Ananda. Sat, eternal. Chit, full of knowledge or consciousness. And Ananda, full of bliss. What is the highest form of bliss? Jai Hari Prabhu says pure devotional service. Yeah, I want to know, what do you all think is the highest form of bliss? Have intimate relationship with Krishna. Yes, both of these things are correct. If we look at our daily lives, the highest form of bliss is love. Think of the most joyful moment of your life. Most of the time when you ask somebody, what was the happiest day of your life? They don't say, oh, the day I made $1 million, or the day I bought my Ferrari. 90% of people will tell you, it's the day my child was born. And probably the other 10% will say it's my wedding day. These moments of love are the ones that give the most satisfaction to our hearts. Because we are made of love. And we are made for love. We experience a tremendous amount of pain and frustration because we invest our love in temporary relationships. We are meant, as Kripamoya Prabhu said, to be in a loving relationship with Krishna. And the relationship with the spiritual master is non-different. The spiritual master is not an ordinary person. The spiritual master is the direct representative of Krishna. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela, chapter 1, verse 45, it states, the relationship of a disciple with his spiritual master is as good as his relationship with the Supreme Lord. Srila Prabhupada has left this legacy, and we are so fortunate in this movement that all of our spiritual masters, including Diksha initiation gurus and Shiksha gurus, are the person Bhagavata. Rendering service to Diksha Guru Bhagavata for most of us may not be possible, that direct service. But all of us have equal opportunity to render service to Vani. Our movement is focused really on Shiksha Parampara. And we are blessed with so many Shiksha gurus around us, especially here in Dallas. I am always so grateful to have moved here. We have so many wonderful direct disciples of Srila Prabhupada. Richard Swami Maharaj is here very often. His Holiness Giriraj Swami comes to visit very often. And we have so many direct disciples of Prabhupada here as well. Kripamoya Prabhu is here, Chakri Prabhu, and Tamal Krishna Goswami's disciples, all of whom have been engaged in devotional service for 40, 50 years. So we're so blessed to have these Shiksha gurus around us, and we can render Vani service by following their instructions. Yesterday, as per the Western calendar, was my Guru Maharaj's appearance day, His Holiness Radha Swami, and we are celebrating his Vyasa Puja here at the temple tomorrow. Everyone is invited, everyone here in this room, everyone listening online, please come. The offerings start at 9:45 and it goes till 1, but you can come and celebrate all day with us. I think at 7:40 is the class, and there'll be bhajans at 9 as well. It is always pleasing to Krishna when we glorify his devotees. So please take that opportunity as well as for us to serve you. But I sincerely beg for my spiritual master's mercy in that I may render some Vani service to him and to his god sisters and his god brothers. I managed to speed through this class, but it does give us a nice opportunity to engage with one another, which is really one of my favorite things to do here with you all. If anybody would like to speak questions or realizations. Thank you, Jai Hari Prabhu. I can always count on you.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for the class.
Hare Krishna.
All right, so this is also one of my favorite verses. I really like this verse as well because I take great solace in knowing that whenever I have a problem, all I have to do is just read this verse, and then this verse tells me, take shelter of the Bhagavatam, take shelter of Srimad Bhagavatam, and then it gives me a lot of hope because, I mean, everyone has a lot of problems, right? And then it gives me hope. And then I say, okay, my problems are temporary, and it gives me a solution, right? So I don't have to dwell on my problems. I can just have the solution to read the Srimad Bhagavatam and serve the devotee Bhagavat, right? And so I just wanted to share that this verse gives me a lot of hope. But also, I always did have a question about Narada Dev of this purport. So I was wondering if I could ask that really quick.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so like basically it says, and simply by associating with them and accepting the remnants of foodstuff left by the sages, the son of a maidservant got the chance to become the great devotee and personality, Srila Narada Dev. Okay, so these are the miraculous effects of the association with the Bhagavatas, right? So my question is that, like, I guess in his current life, the son of a maidservant was Nitya Badha, right? Like the eternally conditioned. But then he took the remnants of the prasad, the foodstuffs, and then he became Naradadev. And I guess the preliminary question is Narada Muni, that's Naradadev, right? Narada Muni?
Yes.
Right. Is Narada Muni, is he considered to be Nitya Siddha? Like eternally liberated?
Gokulananda Prabhu? I don't want to speculate. Kripamoya Prabhu? I'm going to ask the senior. I don't want to speculate.
I can only comment on the basis of the evidence that you already supplied. I can only comment based on the evidence that you already supplied. That you said that he was... Well, it's an interesting question. I'm thinking of another example of, you also have the example of Shukadeva Goswami, who was an impersonalist, and then he heard Bhagavatam from his father. You have the example, I just was reading in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, that Sanatana Goswami, can you remember which one of the, who is he in Vrindavan? Does anyone remember? I know Rupa Goswami is Rupa Manjari, right? Sanatana Goswami. Yeah, right. Anyway, the reason I'm asking this question is I was just reading a couple nights ago in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that it says that Sanatana Goswami was victimized by Maya. You know, he become materially, can't remember the exact words, but he become materially contaminated because of his association of the Mohammedans, you know, with the meat eaters. So I also asked the same question that you're asking. So, what's that? Lavanga Manjari, right? So Lavanga Manjari is obviously a Nitya Siddha, right? She's an eternal associate. But then the question is, do devotees, for our instruction, for our purification, does Krishna put them into illusion? Just like Arjuna was put into illusion on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. So my question, I guess my answer to what your question would be is that yes and no. Which sounds like I'm dancing around the question, but I mean, it's oftentimes when we're dealing in the just like in quantum physics, right? The same principles that apply in this realm don't apply on the quantum level. For example, in this level, I cannot be in two places at the same time. But on the quantum level, an electron can be in two places at the same time. You know, there's so many examples how laws that apply in this realm of existence don't apply in other realms of existence. So, anyways, those are some thoughts.
Very good point.
Thank you very much. That was perfect answer. I would like to add, this I had heard from Hridayananda Das Goswami Maharaj when he was here a few days back. He gave the class. So technically speaking, yes, Nitya Baddha is eternally, bound up. We are conditioned eternally. But that doesn't mean that we're forever we're going to be in that state. Otherwise, why would Krishna say, Yad Gatva Ananivartante, having attained which, that abode of mind, one never falls down into this mortal world. So that means there is a possibility, right, that we can get liberated. So technically speaking, Nitya Baddha means eternally bound up, but no, Krishna is saying that even the conditioned souls can be liberated. Similarly, technically speaking, Nitya Mukta doesn't mean, they never came here, okay. It could mean, like Srila Prabhupada, and their entourage of Krishna, right? So they're eternally liberated. Nobody knows, right? So he said one wonderful point. He said, eternally liberated means we may be we may be bound up right now, but once we get liberated, we become eternally liberated too. Right? If you go by this verse, Krishna's promise, Yad Gatvana Nivartante Taddhama. So having attained that abode, one never falls down. That means you are eternally liberated.
Right.
So it doesn't matter whether previously we were bound up or not. That's the point.
Thank you very much. That's an amazing point. That's kind of like that's really the answer to my question, because I was struggling so much with the like apparent definition or the apparent restrictions of being eternally conditioned versus eternally liberated. And then when I read in this purport that Narada Muni is like just getting some Mahaprasad and all of a sudden Hari Bol, you know, I'm like, where's that? I want that Mahaprasad.
I know.
I'm like, all right, I guess that, you know, thank you very much. That eternally conditioned doesn't always have to mean eternally conditioned, but still that brings up another question, right? So it makes me wonder. Like, I guess what you were saying, that he started off as Nitya Siddha, even though he was the son of a maidservant, and that was just one of his like illusory lives, right? But I guess this is leading me to, it's like somewhat off topic, I'm not sure, but like it leads me to wonder if Narada Muni is simply a position, or if it actually is like the soul that we call Narada Muni. Because like what I heard about Lord Brahma was that like Lord Brahma is a post, right? Like I used to think of like Lord Brahma as like, oh, he's the person, you know, because I think of, you know, myself as a soul person, you know, well, myself as a mostly as a person, but I should be thinking of myself as a soul, right? But anyway, but the question is like, you know, was there a previous Narada Muni before this Narada Muni? Because is Narada Muni just like a position, or is it a personality that is unique to him? You know, like, can we say that Narada Muni is always Narada Muni, or do we say it's a position that people can obtain? Because basically, if he became Narada Muni, was there a Narada Muni before that Narada Muni? See what I'm saying?
That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
I was under the impression that he was eternally Narada Muni, just based on the pastimes I read in the 5th canto, but if anybody else can expand on that.
I'm trying to recollect the verses, words. Just give me a moment. If it says, then yes. If it doesn't, then it's not a post. Yeah, it doesn't talk about the post in case of Narad Muni. It says, this song by, I think it is by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. It says, Ekona Bhajana Prabhu, that is the song. So it says, Jepada lagiya Rama tapasya korila, Jepada paiya Shiva, Shivatva labila. Now here the word pada means post. It's a bit tricky here because it says Lord Shiva is a post. So it is in one sense yes and no. Maybe Kripamaya Prabhu can throw some more light on this. But in case of Narad Muni, it says Jepada Narada Muni Hridaya Dharila. Pada. Jepada means actually the lotus feet, I guess. Upon obtaining those feet. No, it doesn't talk about the post, sorry.
So, Pada means lotus feet. Okay. Yeah.
You know, the next few weeks I've been asked to give class on here at this time. And I was actually and the instruction was to speak on what inspires you. And at first I was like, nothing inspires me. I have no realization. I have no, anything. I have no knowledge. But there's one of my favorite pastimes that I've read in Srimad Bhagavatam is one involving Narada Muni, and I thought, well, maybe I can speak on that soon. So you're giving me guidance. So maybe next class or one after we'll talk about the pastime in my heart with Daksha. Just wanted to say that. So maybe I can study more about Narada Muni, and we can discuss that more.
Personally, I've never heard about Narad Muni as a post.
Well, I'm just concurring what you just said. There's no evidence that I've ever come across in Prabhupada's teachings to support that it's a post. He's never referred to as a post. Right, he's a person. I just wanted to mention this. You mentioned this during class, Mantra, how this debate was going on between Prabhupada's disciples. And both had right intentions, and both were, had scriptural justification to support their point of view. And I just thought sometimes, it's just so interesting how sometimes in our discussions we have, just like we just had a discussion right now, whether it can be seen from different perspectives. And the intention is as long, and then by that discussing process, we become closer to Krishna.
Yes.
So it's almost like Krishna plants these. I mean, look at the whole pastime of Sita, of being exiled. That was such a, it creates so much discussion. How could Ram do that? It's like, but in the discussing process, we become closer. But I just wanted to ask if you could just summarize one more time. I know my brain is like a sieve. What was your response? You quoting Ridananda Maharaj a couple days ago.
Oh, there was a class he spoke here. We can send you the link. If everybody goes, actually, it wasn't a couple days ago. My husband speaks in terms of Indian time. It was a couple of months ago. Hridayananda Maharaj gave Bhagavatam class, and it was mind-blowing. And yes. I don't even remember what verse he spoke on. It was all over the place. It answered all of life's questions. And I remember he spoke at one point from the 4th canto. People were asking him about Bhagavad Gita. We'll send you the link, but if anybody goes onto the YouTube channel and they just search for Hridayananda Swami, it was sometime in the month of October, I think early October. He talked about the jiva question, that everybody wants to know.
Jiva issue.
That's really what the whole class turned into that, and he was incredible.
Yeah. It all started with the Jiva issue in ISKCON. That is a typical term used in ISKCON, right? Jiva issue. There are a bunch of people who always keep asking whether we were already there in the spiritual world and then fell down, or we were never there. There are two classes, right? So it all started with that, and then it got into so much technicality of it.
Oh, man.
But it was wonderful.
He was on fire.
Yeah. Just to add one more to your question, Jayari Prabhu, I was thinking, post means upadhi. It has to be a material designation. Like you talk about demigods, they're managing the affairs of the universe, right? So Narad Muni is not into any of that.
Yeah.
He's purely into spreading Krishna consciousness. So definitely it is a no.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for everybody clarifying that. I didn't want to speculate because I didn't have exact citations, but my impression when I remember reading about him in the Bhagavatam was that he was elevated, that it was sort of like a progression of his life, and then because you learn in the Bhagavatam how he ended up kind of becoming a renunciate and having to travel from place to place and taking on the service of spreading the holy name. But that's a really deep question. Thank you, Jai Hari Prabhu. And I also was probably, like Jai Hari Prabhu, I come from a Western background, so I was probably several years into ISKCON before I found out that Lord Brahma was a job that we could all inherit. I was like, what?
Yeah.
So I understand now, maybe with a more discerning mind, to look at every personality and wonder.
Yeah, and then, is it okay if I just add one more quick thing? I don't know about this, but But speaking about the position of jiva souls and the jiva soul problem, basically, there's two books. One is Not Even Leaves Fall from Vaikuntha, and then there's another book called Our Original Position. And so I was also wondering about this, and I was just about to read the books, and then I heard that Srila Prabhupada was basically saying, what's the use of, I mean, this is paraphrase, but what's the use of like all of this, debating and questioning when you could be spending the time chanting Hare Krishna.
Right.
So like as a book collector, I had both of these books, and then but then when I read that or heard that, I can't remember. Sorry, I was like, okay. So I just put the two books on the shelf next to each other. I said, "You guys duke it out. I'm gonna chant Hare Krishna."
I think the wonderful thing, like when I think about, I meditated on, not meditated, but I thought about Hridayananda Das Goswami, especially after that class, is everybody has different inclinations in Krishna consciousness and, in life. And like His Holiness Hridayananda Swami, he's a philosopher. There are people who have such a high intellect that for them, it gives them great faith to be able to iron out all these philosophical, minute details. It deepens their faith. And for others, it is more of a distraction and a frustration. So the essence of our movement is to get closer to Krishna by following the instructions of the spiritual master and the regulative principles. And then anything around that is sort of extra, and we have different paths as to what's going to get us closer to Krishna and what's going to lessen our faith. Anyway, Gokulananda Das Prabhu, do you want to share something?
Yeah, what you said. So I just remembered what Radhana Swami had said in this regard. In alignment with what Srila Prabhupada said, he said, if you get malaria, dengue, so do you really go searching for which mosquito bit me? Obviously not. You just focus on your treatment, right? Or somebody pushes you, or somehow or other you fall into a deep dark well, right? And there are ropes being sent by 4 sampradayas. Right? You just catch hold of the rope, right, and get out of that should be our focus on getting out of the well, rather than who pushed me, how did I get into this well.
We have a couple of minutes left. If anybody else has any questions or realizations or comments that they would like to share. I'm so appreciative of everybody being here and so open.
I still would like to hear what was your answer to Jai Harvi's question? Yeah. Yeah. No, before that. The first question about Narada being... Yeah. I'm just asking you to repeat it. Yeah.
Yeah, this is what I heard from Hridayananda Maharaj. If you quoted this verse. Yeah, this is what I can recollect what Hridayananda Maharaj said in his classes. He quoted this verse from Bhagavad Gita, Yat Gatvana Nivartante. So if you go into technicality, technical meaning of this word Nitya Baddha means eternally bound up. So that means that particular soul can never get liberated. That is what it means technically. But Krishna is negating that particular idea by saying Yad Gatvana Nivartante. That means there is a possibility for every, so to say, eternally bound up soul. Otherwise, why would he give Bhagavad Gita, right? So that was a wonderful point. It touched my heart. So it is just like demigods. They drank the nectar, right, from the churning of the ocean. And it is said, the word that is used in Amara, Amaratva, that means they're immortal. But are they really immortal? No, they're going to die at one point of time. But their span of life is so long that this term is coined as immortal. Even Lord Brahma dies, the head of all demigods. Right? It was wonderful.
Is there something else, Jai Hari Prabhu, in your mind?
Thank you, everybody, for being here. I really relish these conversations of Srimad Bhagavatam, and I'm really happy to be a part of the Bhagavatam culture. And thank you.
Thank you all very much for sharing this class with me. You always teach me and make me think, so it's a nice service for me. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
thing here situated at this